welcome Crystal Storey this morning to Daybreak. And Crystal, good morning to you.
Good morning, Jimmy Dale.
No stranger. We've been friends a long time. Talk about, we've given much platform to public education here on Daybreak. Today we talk about homeschooling, and talk about homeschooling a little bit and how you got started in it.
Yeah. Well, I've been homeschooling now for 9 years. Alexandra's in 8th grade and Asa is in 7th grade. And we have a community right here in Sylacauga. And really for me, it was a calling. God just spoke to me when I was pregnant with Alexandra and told me that I was going to homeschool. So I started researching it, and I've been with various programs through the years, but we're with Classical Conversations.
Talk about Classical Conversations. It's been around a while.
Classical Conversations has been around for 20 years. Lee Borton's created it 20 years ago. We celebrated that back in the fall, and we have communities internationally all over the world. And we have one right here that meets in Sylacauga every Thursday. It's a K-4 through 12th grade curriculum, and we have a lot of classical education for our children, and it's Christian-based, of course, and we have community with like-minded parents.
Now, your history has been public education. Why should one consider homeschooling?
Yeah, I was public educated and of course went through the system here. Graduated from Childersburg High School, go Tigers. And I am very, we support Childersburg, we support all of our public education, but sometimes there's a need for homeschooling. And for me, like I said, it was a calling. God called me. But there are other various things that people have. We have one family in our community who are a family of gymnasts. And so they want to be at the gym. She's training to be an Olympic medalist. And so she needs to be in the gym more than she needs to be all day at a schoolhouse. And so homeschooling gives her the opportunity to have that flexibility. Also, my daughter was sick back in the fall, as you know, and she had a very severe case of bacterial meningitis. And if we had not been homeschooling, she would have missed an entire semester.
A wrench in the spokes, can it?
A little bit. And so sometimes there's illness or sickness that calls you to homeschooling. And then unfortunately, sometimes you might have a child that gets suspended or expelled and you need to make some alternate plans. And so there's a lot of different reasons that people homeschool. It's a choice.
Crystal, sometimes we can look at ourselves and maybe we're older in years or whatever, but are we capable of educating our children at home?
We are. God prepared us long ago, and when you have a child, you teach them how to speak, and you teach them how to go to the bathroom, and you teach them how to walk. And so what we do at Classical Conversations is we come alongside you and we equip the parents. We actually ask the parents to be involved in the classroom from the K-4 through the 6th grade curriculum. It's called Foundations and Essentials. And we ask the parent to be there with the child, and we actually train and educate the parents right alongside the children, and then they go home and they are prepared, and we have a ton of resources, of course, on the internet and in our curriculum.
Well, since my day and even later in your day, education has changed a little bit, and so how can we help our children have a better opportunity, better education than we had?
I think a lot of people now have gotten rid of books. And of course, the classical model, we read a lot of books. And I was cleaning out our schoolroom this week, and homeschool moms have a whole lot of those. So I think with reading and encouraging the children to read the classics is one of the things that you can do, even if your child is public educated or at a Christian school. Just encourage them to read actual books instead of looking at the computer screen all of the time.
Talk about Christian education.
Christian education is God-centered. It's a Christ worldview. And so at Classical Conversations, we believe that Christ is at the center of every subject. And so we have subject integration, and every subject touches another, and it all goes back to God. Crystal
Storey, our guest this morning, and we're talking Classical Conversations, and this is a K through 12 curriculum, correct?
It is. Here in Sylacauga, right now we have K-4 through 8th grade, and next year we'll add 9th grade. So as the need arises, we add the challenge program. And so here in Sylacauga, we will have all the way through freshman year. next year.
Actually, classical conversations has grown leaps and bounds in the last 20 years, too.
Yes, it has. It started in Lee Borton's home, who founded Classical Conversations with a handful of students with her children, and it has grown to more than 115,000 students internationally now.
Talk about some of the programs that are offered.
Foundations program is our elementary program. It's K-4 through 9 years old, and through 11 years old. And then Essentials is the middle school program, and it goes through 11 years old. It's 9 to 11 years old. It's focusing on English grammar and math. And then the Challenge program is 9th grade through 12th grade, 7th grade through 12th grade. And it is called Challenge A, B, 1, 2, 3, 4. And you have all of the subjects that you would expect to see in a classroom: English, math, science, but we also integrate Bible memory work and the apologetics. Right now in Challenge B, I'm actually the director and the tutor, and I'm looking for directors and tutors for our program, and those are paid positions within our homeschool community. You have to obviously be a homeschool parent to have that opportunity, but we have those positions available. And Challenge B, for example, that I am directing, has a book called Defeating Darwinism. And we are teaching the kids to talk about creation versus evolution and why we believe what we believe. And so it's able to help them defend their faith. And then we're teaching them logic so they can determine what is sound arguments and what is valid when they hear the news, and they can depict for themselves. They can. We're teaching them to think. Speaking
of news, everyone has been riveted to social media and television, whatever, about the shootings in Florida last week, and such a tragedy of 17 people died at the hands of a gunman. Do we see more families, maybe parents or grandparents, that are saying, hey, you know, I'm not so much sold, not just locally, but nationwide, on the security in public education, and how does homeschooling view that particular topic?
Well, personally, I pray for those families, and I am so sad about the situations that have occurred. And internationally, I wish they would bring prayer and God back into the classrooms, and I think that would help solve a lot of those problems. But people have called a lot since those things have been happening because they're fearful. But, you know, no matter where you put your child, you just have to trust that God's going to take care of that family and that child, no matter which situation, because that could happen anywhere. And we just need to know that we have a Creator, and that we have a God to pray to, and that we need to ask Him to protect our kids and bring the angels around them.
Obviously, you're sold on this program.
Absolutely.
And are a tremendous spokesperson for classical conversations and home education. How can parents or grandparents or next of kin, whomever responsible for their children's education, how can they find out more about this?
What I would like to do is invite people to come to information meetings, open houses, and events, and the training sessions that we have. We have a lot of things coming up, which I can send you in the calendar announcements and let you announce those. But for example, tomorrow night at my house, I'm having an open house for people to come in and look at the books, to talk about homeschooling, to find out how you can do this. You know, if you really are equipped, and I can teach you how to rest in the knowledge that God's prepared you for this all along. And so I invite you to come to my house, and you can come and look at everything. We've got information meetings that are going to meet at the coffee shop at Heavenly Grounds over the next couple of months. We have a parent training conference that's at Chaco Springs in May, and it's completely free. And so there are a lot of opportunities to just show up and ask questions.
So how does homeschooling compared to public education as far as scheduling is concerned for the year?
Yeah, Well, we have to meet the requirements. There are laws, and so we have to meet the state requirements for when we have school. But it really is up to the parents. And so we meet once a week in community with like-minded families. And here in Sylacauga, we meet on Thursdays. And so it's different in every community. But each week we meet from 8 o'clock. Well, the Foundations program meets from 9 to 12 and Essentials in the afternoon. But the Challenge program, which is middle and high school, we meet from 8 until 3 o'clock on Thursdays with each other and do school together. But then during the week, it's totally up to you. If you want to do school at night because you're in the gym all day.
Very flexible then.
It's so flexible. You know, I love summertime, and this 80-degree weather has been rocking this week. I'm so excited to wear shorts and flip-flops. And so we've been outside. We've been playing at the park. We have been washing the cars and things like that during the day. And we've been doing school and activities at night when it gets dark. And so it's totally your prerogative as long as you get your schoolwork done. You know, the perception a lot of times is that we sit around and, you know, the homeschool moms watch TV and the kids are playing all day.
Heard that, you know.
Oh, yeah, and that's totally not the case. When you are a mom who, or a parent, we have a few dads who are committed to the program. When you're a parent in the program, and in homeschooling, when you commit to home educating your children, you're with them 24/7. And it's a commitment, it's a calling, and it's something that you have to be very disciplined at because, you know, on these cold winter, icy snow days, you do have a temptation to just, you know, sit on the couch all day. But you do have the opportunity and the flexibility that you can sit there in your pajamas and read the classics, and you can read Shakespeare, and you can talk about the Bible, and we can read the Gospels, and we can talk about science projects, which I brought some pictures. That's what we did during all of this cold weather. If you can bring up some of the pictures. Yeah, that's Josiah. He's one of our challenge students. And so we did a science fair a couple of weeks ago in community. And these kids have been working on science projects for several months. And so at school, we talk about what they're going to be doing, but they've been working on that at home. And so there's Asa. He did, that's my Asa. He is.
You don't wear shorts and flip-flops like that, do you?
Well, no, he's my wild child. He stood in front of Walmart and did a science experiment on human behavior. And so one of the colder days, he stood outside in his bathing suit and asked people what time it was to see their reaction. This is Alexandra, my 8th grader, and she did hers on cosmetic science, and she actually turned our kitchen into a laboratory.
She's a special young lady, isn't she?
She is absolutely so special. She's my dancer. And then this is Eliana, and she's another challenge student, and she won first place. Yep. So we had a lot of fun with that.
And that's your happening coming up on the 24th from 5 till 8.
That's tomorrow, absolutely. So we're going to talk about health and wellness. We're going to talk about the energy that it takes to homeschool. We're going to talk about the rest that you also need to get when you are homeschooling.
And the saying is, nothing in life is free. Well, what about the cost incurred with homeschooling?
Yeah, with Classical Conversation, there is a registration fee, there's a tuition, and then we have books and curriculum just like anything else. And so there is a cost involved, but it's all relative. You know, if you are in any program, you're going to have to invest, you know, some money in it. And so we do ask that you invest financially some things, but we can help you with that. We can give you ideas on how to do a lot of fundraising. You know, I've had some parents that really wanted to get involved, but they didn't have the money, and so they had a yard sale, sold some things in their house. And so
the importance of children.
Yeah, it's, you know, so we'll find a way to help you, and we will show you how you can homeschool.
Differences in homeschooling and private schools itself.
Well, we have a wonderful private school, you know, right near here, and I would say that one of the ways that they view their curriculum is they do have a Bible curriculum, and then they have the other subjects, and so that is called the Christian private school. But with Classical Conversations, we integrate the Bible and God into every subject. And so it's integrated in the entire strand of the subjects.
Let's talk right there. You don't see that happening very much in America, much less the international world as we know it today.
No, and everything points back to God. And so we have a timeline in our schoolroom, and we have the timeline song that we teach the Foundations kids. They actually learn a song that starts from creation that goes all the way up to President Trump. And it's about a 12-minute song that they learn. And
how many verses is it?
It's a lot of verses. It takes them all year to learn. And sometimes you are sitting around the house and something comes on the news or somebody speaks about something, and one of my kids will start in the middle of the song and start singing it.
So you can turn it into a learning moment.
It's a learning moment every time you are speaking about anything. And so this timeline that we have in our house, in the schoolroom, is a secular timeline of the world and a biblical timeline simultaneously all across our schoolroom. And we had an awesome aha moment in our school a couple of years ago when we were learning about some of the people in history. And all of a sudden, Alexandra and Asa had a light bulb moment where they said, well, that happened during this time in history when this was happening in the Bible. And we were able to connect it all together and go talk about it. And we just kind of abandoned what we were doing at that minute and went to the timeline and talked about that time period and how, yes, there were lots of things going on during history that are not recorded in the Bible, but they were going on at the same time.
Are parents and grandparents becoming more concerned about being boxed in as far as choices for their children's education?
You know, the millennial generation, as we call them, want flexibility and they want control over what's going on. And, you know, I'm kind of like that. I've always been a rebel, my mom calls me. And I've always been off the charts different. And she knew when I told her I was going to homeschool, she said, well, that doesn't surprise me. And so I think that especially in this generation, there are so many choices that this definitely appeals to the millennials because they want choices. They want flexibility for their children. And with Classical Conversations, we have a curriculum and we have a standard of what we would like for you to go by, and we help you along, but you can totally customize that for your child. And so with my Asa, you know, he had learning issues and he had sensory processing issues that we discovered very early on, and he couldn't read. Even though I've been with him, I've been homeschooling him, he has a photographic memory and he memorizes things just like that. Wow. I could show him a book and he would know exactly what it said the first time I read it. And so he even fooled me sometimes. And with classical education and homeschooling, it allowed me to devote so much time with him to get him back to the basics and teach him how to read. And now he's 12 years old and he's reading college level material. And
I guess it kind of helps you as a mom and as an educator to know more about your own children.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. People ask sometimes about grades. And we do grade our children, but you know, if they make a bad grade, I make them do it over again. So really there are no bad grades. You know, if they do if they do their math work and they make a C on it, well then I erase the answers and we do it all over again.
It's right.
We do it till it's right. So they do make good grades. Yeah.
All right, finally this morning we're talking with Crystal Storey, who's a part of Classical Conversations. How can people find out, now this is statewide this morning, how can people find out more statewide and locally about this program?
Yeah, we have communities all over Alabama, and so I invite you to go to our website, classicalconversations.com. You can plug in your zip code and it will come up information meetings, open houses. You will see practicums, which are our free parent conferences, and you can contact your support representative, which is the marketing arm of Classical Conversations, which I am one of. And we will contact you. You can email us, you can call us, and I'll be glad to give my email address and my phone number. And anyone can call or contact me at any time and just get information about where to go for information, and we can educate you on this program.
Well, speaking of information, got a big program tomorrow, as a matter of fact.
We do, yeah. Come to my house. Yeah, give me a call, 256-510-2118, or email me at cstorey@classicalconversations.com. That's CSTOREY. And the event is from 5 to 8 tomorrow evening in Childersburg. But if you need directions and the specific address, let me know. And I would love to have you come just get some information.
Check it out.
Just ask questions. Yeah.
Crystal, thanks for being with us this morning.
Thank you.
Crystal Storey of Classical Conversations, Homeschooling, our guest this morning here on Daybreak.